Welcome to this webcast of AMable Open Calls. We're pretty happy to see you out there and this huge amount of interest in these open calls. And today I quickly want to explain you what AMable is about and what the call opportunities are. However, we did a few of these webcasts in the past, and we quite extensively explained what the different points are, what the different things are that we're doing. So I would rather recommend that you watch one of those videos, and I accelerate today a little bit in order to display the real major points that you need to look after when you want to apply to this open call. So as you see on the screen, there's a deadline 1st of March. The current call identifier is AMable OC4, so that's our fourth open call. There will be a few of them in the future, but anyway, if you can make it for this deadline, then you're definitely ahead of what the future might show up. So you're on the right side, you see the AMable Services Arena. We will explain that in a bit more detail. But the main idea of AMable is to support SMEs in the uptake of additive manufacturing. So whatever lack of knowledge there is, whatever support that's necessary, that's what AMable tries to support. The presentation today is structured with the first short disclaimer. Then I quickly want to explain what we think is relevant to additive manufacturing from our perspective, so it's on functional parts. Then what the offerings are, so what AMable is currently doing, and then a few details on the open call, how that is done and what you need to do in order to apply. Disclaimer, the content. So all what we talk about today is just explanatory. So if you want to refer to any rules that are really binding, then please look at our website. There are a few documents. I will refer to them later on as well, but you see them on the very bottom of the screen. So guide for applicants, that's the most relevant topic, document for you. The proposal templates that will help you to write a proposal, nicely structured, so you just have to plug in your text and your idea. And the FSTP contract template, that is what you will have to sign if you get funded, if you are elected and selected as an experiment with an AMable. Now, the webcast will be recorded and maybe published. So if you want to put any questions, there's a possibility either to chat or to put questions in this tool that you have on the screen. Please put them there so we can enter them. We might add them to the frequently asked questions section. So please also, if you have any questions, then look into that area of the website. Now, functional parts that need AM to come alive, and that is truly the main sentence. So any functional part that could be manufactured by conventional manufacturing is not in the scope of AMable. If you look at this one here, that's one of the, let's say, pilot demonstration cases that we selected in the very, very beginning, which has been done by the MTC from the UK. This is the end of a motorbike fork. So it keeps the wheel in place and provides the connection to the steering that the driver is using. This part clearly is functional. This part clearly needs to be reliable, needs to be lightweight in order to provide good steering capability, and needs to be structurally really robust in order to take all those loads. And this, in the complexity as it is on the screen, cannot be done by manual manufacturing, by conventional manufacturing. So you can't do that by milling, grinding, and drilling. And that's the main thing. So you need to have something that integrates somehow functionality, that provides advantages that go ahead of conventional technologies. Here, for example, for those that love vinyl discs, you may consider that this part is being composed from a number of separate parts. So this also nicely shows if you can integrate a larger number of subcomponents into one part, then you have an advantage because you don't have to do the assembly, you don't have to match tolerances of those assembled parts and so on. And this one here really provides you a better sound performance because you do not have to look, or you can calculate how the vibrations are being transferred. So this is about functional parts. On the website, you find a few more examples. You also find the current cases that we have in AMable, that we currently do, that we currently fund, that we currently support. So look into there, to make sure that your idea meets this kind of functional parts idea. AMable, on a global perspective, wants to be what is currently called a digital innovation hub. So we want to provide all the services that are needed in order to bring an idea forward. That means design, that means construction, that means also training if you miss any skills. It also means business development. So we do not only look at the business case that you propose, which definitely is one of the key things that you have to consider when applying for funding, but we also want to develop this. The digital data chain for additive manufacturing data is another topic. I will not go into very much detail on this one. There's one slide after this which quickly explains that, but please look into that if you're interested in, let's say, how to handle data without offering it to the cloud. And what we're trying to do, we are a number of RTOs that currently stand together and that provide support on a joint basis, and that is this to try to join all the competences. So no matter which material challenge, what construction, what design challenge you have, hopefully we will be able to find someone from this huge number of partners which represent the current European status of additive manufacturing. The services that we provide are somehow hosted in the AMable services arena. So you see here the most important topics: maturity assessment, design for additive manufacturing, implementation, road mapping. So a number of services that are specifically targeted at that what we see as requirements in current SME take-up challenges. If you have anything that goes ahead of this that is different from what's proposed there, please write to us. Please put it into your proposal and just state, okay, we would need this service. It might be contained in this and that, but it's not really precisely what we think we would need. Then we can react on that. So please, you're all requested to tell us what you need. However, for formal reasons, you have to select some of these services in order to show what your lack of knowledge is. A guide will lead you through the services arena. If you propose what you think you need, we will sit down and discuss with you what is the best implementation to achieve your objectives. So please don't be worried about having to make the most precise definition. State what you need and let us have a look on that. This is one of the services descriptions you currently find on the website. This is visualization, immersive design. So if you look at the key benefits of this one, it is to visualize a product, to visualize ideas or simulation, to support the design phase. So if you have to discuss with the customer, then you could say, okay, it looks like this. Is this what you're thinking about? So a service to, let's say, support the bridging from technology development to design and to comprehension of what the product is about in the end. Another example here, the second one that I have, is design for AM. So here it is really service key benefit, as we see it, is to provide a solution that is cost effective, so a design that can be printed at a good price, and also to de-risk the build. So some of the constructions that you, let's say, draw on the screen might not really producible. So they might tend to fail during the print process, depending on the technology that you use. But it may just not meet the specification that you expect. So to de-risk this, to, let's say, have a guideline on how to construct your part before you go to print stage. This one here, only very short, AM data evolution. So once you have an idea, you write that onto a big sheet of paper, you scan this, and now this scan, and that's our basic idea, stays with you. The scan stays with you, but what you can document into a blockchain, so something that is tamper-proof, What you can document is that you had this specific document at that time. And the way to do it is to create a hash key. So it's like a checksum or about the entire data set that this file is. You put this hash key into the blockchain. It is then linked to the date and to your name. And at any later stage, be it for a change in construction, be it for feedback on a simulation, whatever document or so whatever file there was, you can still prove through the hash key this existed at that time. But you don't have to provide that file in order to prove it. You only have to provide if you have to go to court or if you want to claim something. So the data stays with you. That's what you see on this diagram. So what's called a company data. The company data stays with you. You have dedicated connectors. So if you have to share data with a service provider, for example, a simulation bureau, you directly know, okay, I'm going to exchange this data with that service bureau, and this service bureau is going to transfer the data back to me. You don't have to upload it into a cloud. You always know the exact content of that file because you can ensure that the file that one party sends is the same file that the other party receives. So there's no discussion about the existence and the completeness of that data. This is the team of competence centers that currently stand together. On the top, there's the technology centers. On the bottom, there's the data management and business analysis and consultancy branches. And on the very right, there's the training support organization, so EWF. They're providing the training framework in order to have a sorted approach on knowledge creation. Now, quickly on the open calls, support and funding. More or less I explained already these things. You have to have an innovative idea for a functional part that needs AM to become alive. So it needs to have some innovation in it, be it for you or for the market that it targets. It needs to be functional, so not for the desktop. It needs to need AM. So we're not going to support any conventional manufacturing products. Then you can get the support. The support is two split. On the one side, we, let's say, transfer funding from the European Commission to you in order to finance personnel, consumables, but mainly only these two things, and travel. So if you need to travel for conducting your experiment, then that's fine with us. What we do not fund, but that you've also seen in the guide for applicants, what we do not fund is the purchase of equipment. What we do not really like is if you do an extensive amount of subcontracting. So this funding is really meant to support you, to support the SME in increasing knowledge in conducting the experiment. What you need to do is to write up your story. So your idea needs to be clear. You need to define your AM starting point. So where are you in additive manufacturing? Are you a novice? Are you a professional? And then second point, you need to present your business case. So how to sell, which market you target, what the potential is. And the third thing is what it comes up to then in the end. So what's the risk? What are your success factors? And what do you lack? So why do you need the support from AMable or through AMable? That's the most decisive points in later evaluation. There are two modes of experiments: feasibility study, which is more targeted on a short thing. So if you want to check if something could work, then you can go in as a single entity. You see this cross in the table on feasibility study experiments. So a single supplier is okay to apply. The proposal length is 4 pages, so you can write it there very quickly. TRL needs to be between 3 and 5. That's this American scale that goes from 1 to 9. So 9 is really in operation, 8 is robust prototype, and the 1 then on the other hand is very, very scientific or basic research. So you need to be at a rather good level, but it does not need to be a prototype yet. duration you see and the possible funding that we can provide there as well. The best practice experiments now, they are really targeted in trying out if the product could be produced under the proposed business case and all the requirements that go around it. So at the rate that you want to produce it at the price that you want to produce it at the technical variability, perhaps in different printing places, or if you want to optimize post-processing or handling of the product across the production chain. All these cases go into there. That's the reason why it is a TRL between 4 and 8. The proposal length needs to be a bit more explanatory, so it's 10 pages that we want to see there. And it needs to have a user, and this user role is that the user really defines what he wants to see from this product, so to really explain and to guide the supplier, that might be you, especially the SME, to guide the development towards a defined objective. So it's a way of pulling the product really to the market and making sure that it is a solution that can then, after the experiment, really start to go into the market. The process then is you submit that by PDF to our website, to our email address, oc4, it's currently oc4@amable.eu. The evaluation process will be handled by external experts. They will look into the proposals and check for the mark that they give to the evaluation criteria, which you see on the bottom. So that's impact of the experiment, anticipated result, that's excellence of the idea and approach, and quality and efficiency of the implementation. If you want to know any more details on those, please look into the guide for applicants. There's a short explanation on what these criteria mean. You should stick to that. That's why I do not explain them here today. But you can clearly see, impact of the experiment is what you will achieve if it's successful. Excellence is somehow the state of the art and what you put on top of that, either for you or for the market that you address, and how you approach this. And quality and efficiency is definitely on your implementation plan and the way you want to invest the funding that we offer. Oops, sorry. Now, what is financial support to third parties? That's a bit of the questions that we receive quite a few times. It is a mechanism that the Commission allows us as AMable to select one of you and to support you. So we, from Fraunhofer, as we are the project coordinator, we will then sign a contract, this FSTP contract template that I referenced in the beginning. We will sign this contract with you. We will agree on the achievements based on a consortium vote, and you will then receive the financial support, so the money transfer from us to you. However, we still have, and then it is our role to report to the Commission. So you will have only to report to us rather than to report to the Commission. That's the main thing about this FSTP, financial support to third parties mechanism. And on the bottom you see what I already explained. So we will have this contract then, we'll collaborate with the consortium partners. Please remember that this guide or tutor or mentor, so that's all the same that we have currently. Unfortunately, we have 3 words for that, but this guide will lead you through the development process and bring you from one service to the other. So that's how we try to keep things together and to serve you best. Short resume, call identifier OC4, deadline 1st of March. Total budget that we allocated for this 450,000 euros. The funding rate is 70% of the eligible cost. Here, please let me quickly state eligible cost, that's direct cost as well. So if you have personnel costs, then please look at the direct cost and not cost including overhead. So it's direct cost that you have to pay for an employee. It's not including the overhead. The overhead is coming on top, but that's also explained in the guide for applicants. Type of experiments, feasibility study best practice. And then here is the list of addresses that you can use. So you see it here on AMable.eu calls. I think, yes, I opened this here. So on our website, AMable.eu, you see here calls, a number of things there. So here is the link to the OC4 documents. You have seen this one here, otherwise you wouldn't be in the webcast. So you find all the documents here: guide for applicants, FSCP contract template, proposal template, the address to the OC4 mailbox, and if you want to discuss with mentors or guides, whichever name now you select, you can do that through that channel. Also, quickly, let me show you. These are the cases that we currently have on our website, so you can look into those in order to understand what successful experiments are about. And let me also quickly reference to the services arena. So here you see all these different descriptions, which are also replayed in the guide for applicants, but we revised some of these descriptions. So if you want to have a look at these here, they might better answer your questions of what you should select. If you want to go for a self-funded application, then you can also request an offer to provide this service. So all these services currently have this option that you can send a request directly. I also want to reference, we offer AMable Experience Labs, that is going around Europe in one of the RTO centers. They offer a training session on basics of additive manufacturing, so material selections, design, guidelines, as I say, on the basic levels, on the entry level. But if you have a case and if you're not too sure if that really fits into AMable, if you would like to discuss or to understand a little bit more about additive manufacturing, look out for these dates. We fill in the concrete dates as they come in, but basically you can already register for one of these experience labs, and the guys that are doing it will then come back to you and tell you the date. So please also use this opportunity. That's it from my side. I quickly look into the question section on what I see there. Someone saying that he couldn't hear audio. I hope you guys understood me. In case you would get funded, can we still access another Horizon 2020 funds that may be applicable to our business area? Yes, you can. There is a rule from the European Commission that this money that goes through this financial support to third parties is limited to 100,000 euros per legal entity. So if you apply in our AMable calls, let's say for 20, you can still go for another 80 or for another 90. So they state that legal entities that already received 100,000 euros will not be selected again for funding. So this is one of the rules that you should look at. As I say, that's the ICT program under Horizon 2020. If you have any questions to that, then please approach us. What would be the definition of a mid-cap? A good question. Definition of a mid-cap. There is no clear rule on that. It shouldn't be industry, so it shouldn't be an international company that has like 10,000 employees. But it's also not tied to the different definitions in the countries that are like only 200 employees or only 1 million or 10 million euros. If you are a mid-cap but not really industry, then please either write to us and ask us if we would consider your size as to be a mid-cap, or just submit the paper, the proposal. The Commission promised us to be okay if the case is good and if we can really see that this legal entity needs that support but cannot fund it in itself or doesn't have the capability to fund it itself, then it should be fine to be selected. Another question, are we allowed to apply again at OC4 if we applied to OC3, but there are no results yet? Okay. If you have a bad case, then you shouldn't try again. But basically, we would very much like that people do a feasibility study in order to check out if things could work out. And with that information to go to a best practice experiment. That's the premium way to go, and that's also our thinking. So if you want to assess your idea through a feasibility study, do it quick and go ahead. Then if you did not file yet the final report or whatever, you still have learned something. If you write that down, then it should be good to be selected for a best practice experiment. Can RTO be considered for funding? Yes, this question I think is somewhere also in the frequently asked questions, but sorry, there's a clear no. The funding that we are allowed to hand out needs to go to SMEs, and we can't put that to research organizations. However, if you have a case where a research organization wants to participate in such an experiment, then that is fine for us. So they can still be in the team. But as I said, sorry guys, we are not allowed to give money to those external RTOs. Can a company participate if we are already involved in AM heavily? Great question, this one. If you remember, I tried to flag that you need to precisely describe what your lack of knowledge is. So I would assume that someone who has already experience in AM would probably not be the best candidate for a feasibility study unless it is a new field of technology for this entity. It could be a good case for a best practice experiment if they want to advance their production robustness, their variation testing, or whatever challenge. But again, coming back to this point, if there is a challenge, if there is a lack of knowledge that is not yet covered in your entity, then propose it. We will see if we need to tweak or to change the services. But basically, that is what we try to do. We try to bring additive manufacturing closer to those that really want to use it. Now, another question. In our business idea, we have two different parts. So business aspects / parts of the product that use AM and which we want to have help with. Should we do two different applications? If you do two applications, you have double the chance. But they really need to be different. So we don't mind if one entity sends in two proposals. That's good. But they need to be different. If it's twice more or less the same, I don't know what the benefit is. If doing both aspects, so I don't know exactly about your idea, but if you're looking at both aspects in the same feasibility study, then it might even strengthen your case. Because what you're looking at also at is this business case side. If you have, let's say, one question which triggers two perspectives on a technical challenge, and you can explain that it would influence two markets, then that case would definitively be stronger than two single proposals. But I would leave that to you. You would have to take care if both of your proposals would achieve a high mark, then one of them might drop out because of the maximum funding that we allow for one legal entity. So that's what you need to consider in that decision. How are partners assigned? What is the criteria? I would expect that question goes to the support people that support the experiments. The I'll just take it at that question. So if we receive the proposals and we see the challenges, be it on materials or the processes or the different stages, we have two criteria to dispatch these people to specific RTOs. The one is we would like to have them to speak the same language, so the language barriers as low as possible. And the other one is availability plus technology coverage. So if there is someone if there are 2 or 3 or 4 partners which can provide all the technology, but one of them would not be available, then we would schedule it to another one. So that's basically the two ideas. But still, if you would not agree to be serviced by one of the partners, you can still say, okay, I don't like that one. I want another. So we are free on that. It's really about supporting you guys. It's not about making a too hard scheme on that. Next question. Do you have any estimate when the OC2 results will be known? Okay, that is not a question for an OC4 webcast. But I could put it the other way around. Once you submit your proposals, which is on the 1st of March, we will run that through an evaluation procedure, which usually, at least in the last calls, was more or less available after 4 weeks. Then there will be a time where we have to discuss with the Commission on who to fund, and then there will be a time on writing the contracts and getting them back in. So we should be able to do that in less than 3 months. We try to get quicker with that, but you might understand that there are some formal things going on behind the scenes that sometimes make it a bit more complicated, especially for the OC3 ones, so the last open call that went across Christmas and there were some holidays and people unavailable. So that's proceeding, but I can't give you, and I won't give you dates because it does not depend on me. Next question. In case a service from the services arena is requested, is the funding for the same to be included in the proposal? No, that is not. Okay, I didn't explain that. So each of the experiments that is going to be selected has a certain amount of service hours available to consume. We put that in the proposal. It is something like half a person month for the feasibility studies and a bit more, 1.2 if I'm right, for the best practices. So please guys, look into the guide for applicants for these figures. So you can assume that you will receive a certain number of personnel hours of service. You can select which services you are going to consume, but they are not part of your calculation. You just have to look at your direct personnel cost to put them in, to multiply that, to add 25% overhead. Again, please look into the guide for applicants for the precise figures for the precise rules. And the same is true for the consumables. So the consumables direct cost for the consumables, not including any overhead for purchasing or whatsoever. So direct cost of the consumables, so what's really on the bill. Put 25% overhead onto it, and then that is the sum that you're going to apply for. Sorry, this by 0.7, because the funding rate is 70% of what you spend. Look into the templates. It's also referenced there and in the guide for applicants. So I don't want to stress the time too much. We allocated half an hour. We're a bit over time. I currently don't see any additional questions. So please, if you have any after the web call, after having discussed the proposal that you want to write, feel free to contact us either through mentors or guides at AMable.eu, or send it to oc4@amable.eu. We'll try to monitor the email accounts in the next days very closely. If you miss any replies, please give us some time to go on that. But again, the documents that are on the web server explain everything that the rules need to be hit. Thanks for your attendance. Thanks for listening. I hope it has been informative to you, and we are looking very much forward to your proposal.